So welcome to County Live. It's the first Stockport County Live of the new season, of the 2021 season. God knows where this season is going to go. It's anything like the last one we're in for a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Stockport County have already played 2 games, so we've got a lot to get into. We've got a slightly different format this year as well. You've got me and Chris to put up with as usual, but we've also got a guest co-host every week. And this evening, delighted to be joined by Matty Mainwaring. Hi, Matty.
How are you doing? You okay? Thank you for having me.
No, it's great. Great to have you on. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm okay. Same old.
Yeah. Just whinging because your missus kicked you out of the room you were going to be in.
Yeah. I had all my little space set up and I got turfed. So I'm in the back room now.
But the boss kicked you out.
We'll have words later. She'll be all right.
So, first game of the season, obviously difficult one for County. We talked about it on the podcast, and I actually said that I think County should be happy with a score draw. Going away. It's the first time this team have played a competitive match together. It's a lot of players who have never played a competitive match together. Completely new team. Got to go for a long way. You're playing quite a tough team in Torquay. So, as it turned out, County kind of did everything except score the goal that meant that they could win that match, and then obviously suffered a blow at the end when Torquay snatched it right at the end. And also their keeper made a lot of really good saves.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll throw straight over to you, Matty, really, because we know the score, we know what happened, but what is it like when you're playing with a whole new bunch of players? Because with the exception of, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 players, really, it's a whole new setup.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. There has been quite a few adjustments and new faces brought into the squad. But if I know the gaffer, which I do very well, he would have prepared round the board, behind the scenes, 100%. And I think this is football. There's an old saying that the gaffer used to say, and he reiterated it most weeks. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you take. Like you just said there, Martin, some fantastic saves from the Torquay goalkeeper. On another day, they can go in and you could be 3-4-0 up. We had all the possession, countless chances, looked really creative. And for me, personally, it looked very optimistic for the future. With that said, we didn't convert and we were pushed to the end. It's one of those things and it's too late really to mess up. Knowing the gaffer, he will go away. I can put my life on it. He will have had a meeting the next morning at training, and they would have gone over what they did well, what they did not so well, or things they could have worked on, and taken that into the Halifax game.
And Chris, I suppose on that, if you're going to take one of those games where the performance is good enough but the result isn't, then you want that to be the first game of the season.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember, obviously, we've had Jim every week before the season started for the last, 5 or 6 years, or at least the manager before the season started for the last 5 or 6 years. And they always say the same thing, which is true. The business end of the season starts now. 3 points at the start of the season counts for exactly the same as 3 points at the end of the season. However, we know form plays a part. So if you lose a couple of games while the squad's getting it in, you don't really read too much into it. It's not like we've lost 1-0 at the end of March, beginning of April, when the race is really tightening up and things are to play for. So it's frustrating, but like you say, better to get it out the way early.
And Matty, going back to what Chris said before, I suppose that there is no substitute for competition. You can play all the pre-season friendlies you like, but you don't start really finding out about each other until you're under pressure.
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you've got to gel with each other. Everybody's got to gel with the manager, and you've got to build that rapport. And I think that aside, when you talk about stakes and what's at stake, a pre-season friendly is one thing, but we all know that 3 points in professional football is gold dust. You add 3 points to the mix. Survival's on the line, promotion's on the line, money's on the line. Things become that bit more sort of intense. People are battling for their lives basically on the pitch, so it matters.
And Chris, before we move away from Torquay and come back up north, Anybody catch your eye of the new players particularly?
To be honest, I don't because there's so many new players. I don't want to start picking ones out because they've all got these great attributes. You know, they've all got. There was the engine on some players, in particular in the Halifax game. They seem like they could run and run and run forever and ever. Others maybe didn't quite have that about them, but they'd have a little bit of touch or a little bit of game management. Or other players were just so calm under pressure the whole time. It just never looked like they were out of the comfort zone. What impressed me more than singular players was the way that you could see them clicking into the Jim Gannon models and ways of playing quickly. So I wouldn't say there was a single one player he was much better than the rest of them. I think together, and like Matty said, you do take that little bit of time to build up the rapport and everything else, but you can see the beginnings of it in games 1 and 2. And that for me was the impressive bit rather than like a single player.
All right, I won't let you sit on the fence every week, but I'll take it first week. So Tuesday, County go 1 down, come back to Edgley Park, go 1 down. And, you know, that all of a sudden, that's 2 goals scored against them this season. They haven't managed to score a goal. But they kept their heads. That was the thing. It looked to me like, you know, watching it on YouTube, they kept their heads. They didn't, you know, that wasn't a problem for them. You know, they knew that they were the better side and they had it in them to win. It looked to me like they kept it very calm. I mean, we'll talk about their goal in a minute, but to me that they never looked like they were worried about that, Matty.
Not at all, no. As always at Stockport, particularly in my time there, I know there's no fans there now, but for some reason, we would always pick up against the Cheadle end. I don't know what it is, and we gain momentum. Obviously, back in the day, it was with a crowd. We don't have that now, or at least not at the moment. It was the same old story. I think picking up. We're probing, and then bang, the winner's there, you know. But you're right in what you're saying. Keeping the heads in such a tight match, particularly early on in the season when everybody's fresh and scrapping for that good start, basically. It was crucial and it paid off.
Do you think you can read too much, Matty? And you know Jim in many ways better than I do. I mean, I've probably spoken to him more in the last couple of years, but I've never had the relationship as a player to a manager. Do you think there's anything in the squad numbers? Because Adam Thomas wears the number 7. Adam Thomas has been Mr. Reliable the last few years, and he's on the bench. And I think because he was given the number 7 shirt, I don't know, maybe I just assumed he was going to be starting, and maybe he therefore assumed he was going to be starting because he's got in the 1 to 11. He's obviously then come off the bench, and I don't know, that his goal is an absolute wonder goal. And there's obviously the part about it being in front of the Cheadle end. But part of me thought, is he kind of making a statement there that I should have been starting, really? I'm in this team.
I think as a professional, I definitely won't doubt he's making a statement. Again, though, going back to me sort of knowing how the gaffer works, he's always been a man who doesn't really look past the next game. So if he doesn't believe you're right for that game, it doesn't mean you're any less of a player. I just think he picks the best team that he believes will win that match. I can't remember the exact player, but I remember back in the day, it may have been Carl Baker, who we know was a great talent. I think he scored 2 and didn't start the game after, and it's because the gaffer believes that this is the team I want to go and win that match. So I think there may have been an element of that involved, but the lad definitely made a statement, and then some.
The amount of times we've said in commentary over the years, why is he not starting this guy, or why is he taking him off when we need a goal? And the amount of times on the following Thursday, Jim's pulled us back and gone, I heard about that comment, and that's why I did it, because we've gone on to win the game. And he knows what he knows, doesn't he?
He has his reasons, and the proof's in the pudding. The success is there, so it's safe to say he knows what he's doing.
But it just take a by the way, to appreciate that Adam Thomas goal. Like, it's just, where's that come from?
He'll be waiting a while, won't he? He'll be waiting a while to score a better one than that. I mean, again, I've always said this, and I still say it to this day. A winger cutting in is you're sort of running against the fullback's weakness, if you like. So if you're running against the left back and you're cutting onto his right foot, they don't have quite the same balance defending against you. So if you run him down the line, he'd be quick to react, and he might match you 50-50 for it. But cutting in, it works a treat, and that's exactly what he did. And to have the courage to strike it from there, he deserved his goal. It was a marvellous goal.
Yeah, worthy of winning any match. But definitely worthy of winning that one. But their goal was a bit controversial. It looked like it was pulled back from over the line.
Yeah, difficult to tell from here, but everyone's arm went up. The arms went up, and so they must have had a case. And the goal itself was just a massive. It was a fluke. It's one of those things you can't really do anything against.
Matty, as a player, you're going to put your hand up, aren't you? You're going to put your hand up. If you're on the attacking team, you're going to say, "No, I didn't go out." And if you're on the defending team, I was way over the line. That. So, is it one of them things that we can complain about it, and ultimately, someone is in the wrong. Either it did or it didn't. There's nothing we can do. Of course, we're going to claim it. We have to claim it, don't we?
Yeah. What I always find with things like that, and as I got more experienced as a player and became a bit older, I would urge the younger lads, if you're holding a high line on a set play, as soon as the ball's delivered, if 6 or 7 of you put your arms up like this, the chances are the linesman's going to think you can't all be wrong, and instinctively he's going to put his flag up. And the same applies with the ball running out. And I noticed that quite a lot of the county back four put their hand up, but you can't knock the lad for carrying on, and putting a cross in. I would have done the same thing. It ended up in the back of the net. That's just unfortunate. It's one of those things that come off Ben's heel, but right or wrong, you just get on with it. It's just one of them things. It's football.
Yeah, and I said they kept their heads, but it only took 10 minutes to equalise. Mark Kitchings, who's left back but very well thought of. I thought, he's looking like a real player.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that surprised me was in pre-season he didn't get an awful lot of game time. Connor Jennings, who we've signed up front, we've obviously signed his brother as a left back as well, and James was getting more of the minutes, and but Mark's come in, and I was really impressed with him, just the way he slotted in, and that's not. You talk about a striker's tackle sometimes, you know what I mean, when they come back and they just pulse goals into someone rather than actually going in and winning the ball.
Yeah.
It's the same the other end. Defenders aren't really supposed to just coolly finish like that, and it's a flowing move, bing, 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 just slotted home. That's a goal that should be scored 15, 20 games into a season when you know each other inside out, not the first home game.
No, I agree. And funnily enough, you mentioned Connor Jennings there. It was a fantastic assist from Connor. Great vision to sort of notice him advancing up pitch. He did look comfortable. And if you look at his background, the lad, I think he's played as a wing back, as he's come through the ranks. I think he was at Middlesbrough, was he? As he come through the ranks, he's played in the Football League, maybe as a left back and a wing back. So he's comfortable going forward. And he's obviously a good defender because that's his prime position at the moment. If he can nail both, he's got a big future.
Did you ever play with Connor?
I did play with Connor. Yeah.
What was he like? What was he like as a player?
He was a really good player, and I think his CV speaks for itself. And he's a workhorse as well. So he's a striker who can bang the goals in, but he works hard as well. He's a grafter. He'll go and win you the ball back. He's a nuisance for defenders.
I think he had that. He's had 2 of those games now where he deserved the goal. He's everywhere. He's electric. It looks like he changes his batteries at half time, but he's just not quite had the moment with the ball going over the line yet. And I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. Just from watching him from the sidelines, he looks like that kind of player where it gets to him. He wants to do that bit more to just get his name on the score sheet.
Yeah, I think that's one of his best assets as a player. His commitment and passion. He clearly, if you didn't know him from Adam, he loves football, and I think. To say that, like you say, he's not quite banged one in. He would have wanted to. He's still digging away, chipping away, trying to win the ball back. A lot of people go under when it's not going the way, and they get subbed at 60 minutes or whatever, and they start sulking. He's a talent. He's a proper talent.
He's got So he's got it all going on with his play, and he's got it properly upstairs as well, which is which is what. As you would know, Matt, better than anybody, is what Jim Gannon will be looking for in a player. He'd definitely be looking for that. So talking of what Jim's looking for, Dover on Saturday, do you see any changes to the team, either of you? Do you think, because Jim's still, as you said, Matt, he's always going to pick the best side for the game that he's got ahead of him, but he has got a lot of players still that he needs to blood and find stuff out about. Do you think he goes for a kind of keep it solid and then working through his subs to kind of find more out about people, that kind of approach?
In my opinion, I think the game finished so encouragingly for the gaffer and the side that he wouldn't have any real reason to change, unless he sees a chink in their armour that he can exploit. It is early days, but at the end of the day, it's difficult to change a winning team. There's not just the we talk about the goals, and they obviously play a massive part. They win the game, but if you think about Ben Hinchcliffe's save on I think it's 41 minutes, that would stand up in any division across the world. That save, those are equally important. So I think everybody's a sort of a cog in the wheel, and I think it's the gaffer's job, and he's an expert at it, to pick the best 11 that go and win the game. And I personally don't think he'll change it. Maybe one change.
The only change, does Adam Thomas force himself into the team?
I was just about to say that. Yeah, maybe one change. How can you not play him? Yeah.
He got man of the match. He got interesting. I like Adam. He's a lovely lad. I think he's a really good footballer. I think he's quite underappreciated, but over the years, I think his stature has grown. But should you get man of the match for one goal? Like, I loved it. I love the goal. I don't want to take anything away from him, but some of the lads had really good games out there.
Yeah, no. I suppose it depends what value you put on a goal like that, and a winning goal, like we said before, about 3 points being goal dust. If that's the value you stick on it, then you can't deny it. Yeah,
you can't deny that goal equals 3 points. So yeah, I'm happy with him being man of the match, even if you're not, Chris. Honestly.
No.
Just posing the question.
Yeah. So Chris, we always used to say, I always just put you on the spot and said, if you were Jim Gannon, what would you do? Would you give Adam a spot, or would you run with it as is?
I think for consistency's sake, unless one of the fullbacks, because they do so much running, those boys, and it's obviously early days in the season, and because of the weird situation we're in, we're not starting in the back end of summer, we're starting in the beginning of winter. There's a potential that one of the lads might have felt a bit tight coming off, or just maybe a bit rusty. So providing that there's none of that, then no, I think he'll probably stick with what he's got. But if he's seen something in training or in the cool downs or whatever, or from the physio's report, then that's, like Mike says, if there's going to be a change, that'll be it. I can't foresee any others.
Interesting these days. See what you think about this, Matt. But football has changed quite a lot. You would, 10, even 5 years ago, especially at this level, you'd pick your best 11 players and you would put them together and you would trust them as 11 players to do a job. But these days, in terms of tactics, there's far more about patterns. So it's how, players kind of fit in together. Does that, and that's definitely the case at the top level. Does that kind of come into Jim's thinking now, or is that, is he thinking about, well, I've got these three in this triangle, I've got that, and I want to move it to there. Does that come into play as well?
Yeah, 1,000%. I can't begin to tell you the depth that he went into to prepare for a Saturday game during the week leading up to that. We would spend pretty much all morning and early afternoon Saturday working on things that not things that are going to exert you. You've got more than enough energy for the game, but the other side of it, the mental side, the preparation. He would have the first 11 playing against the reserves and maybe one or two of the youth team who are replicating whoever you're playing the next day. So we'd be doing set plays, we'd be preparing all around the board. We'd have a meeting that morning that would probably last 45 minutes. And within his thinking, he would try to think who complements who. So maybe I've got a ball winner in the middle of the park with somebody who's going to break up play. Maybe I've got a big striker who's going to sort of make things spill to a more creative player in the number 10 position. So that's exactly what the gaffer's about. His attention to detail, because he's not always worked with the biggest budgets in the world. It's about getting the most out of the squad he's got and utilising everything.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So, and then Chris, Tuesday, it's Wealdstone, and they're very famous fan.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're speaking with John Kieran after the game on Tuesday, and you were saying the one reason you'd usually go to Wealdstone, you can't for this time because there's no fans allowed in. So you've got no fans business. Well, neither of you at the minute. no one has. Yeah. So, I think. Look, it's a pain in in the backside for clubs who have got to do, even if you're full time. I know this conversation came up when we were part time status, but when you're doing so much travelling, think of the games we've got to cram into this amount of time now. Maybe that'll be on Jim's mind when he's talking about team rotation, squad rotation, whatever. We've got Saturday, Tuesday, and on top of that, it's more often than not, it's really long trip back home, really long trip back home, really long trip back home. So there's going to be some fatigue in that, I'm sure, and that, if for no other reason, I think we'll probably see a bit of squad rotation, definitely for Wealdstone, if not for Dover.
Well, that's an interesting point as well. That with the the money they've got behind them now, County, those long trips, actually, you can deal with them a bit better as well. You can get better coaches. You can stay over more often. You can actually have better trips, and that's gonna, as you say, there's so many trips to every end of the country in this league now, and in tight space. So County are well placed to deal with that as well.
Is the away games, Matty, when you're a professional player, other than actually scoring and being on the pitch and whatever else, is that one of the best things about being a footballer? The away trips, getting on the bus, getting in the hotel, stories you can't tell us on air.
Stories, yeah. I'll chat to you later about it. It is good. Yeah. Chilling with the lads on the coach, maybe a little card school, having a good laugh. It depends on the length of the away trip, really. You get to do a bit of everything with the Torquays and the Plymouths and the Salisburys, the 6 hours away in traffic and stuff. So, yeah, it is good. It's a good laugh. The hotels, to be honest, everything's professional, though. It's one of those things. It's all prep, really. You don't get to sightsee, you don't get to do anything. It's just literally get there, have your evening meal. You might meet up for a meeting, wake up, have your breakfast, again another meeting, and then bang, you're off to the ground, and you come straight home from the ground. So the banter's there, everything's flowing. A little bit of room to room banter. Me and Paul Turnbull were very guilty of that back in the day. We were the ones doing this and that. But on the whole, it is good, but it's all very professional.
I went to see a guy called Willie Vlortin, who's a musician and a writer, and he was talking about how he stopped being in the band to write for a few years, and then he got back in the band. And he said the thing he really missed, he said he enjoyed playing live. It was great because they were dead professional, but the thing he really missed, what he wanted to do, was get back in the van. He just loved being in the van with the band because they'd become, and that's the thing that he really missed. So it's the same thing, isn't it? You're doing your job on the pitch, and then you're with your friends kind of when you're traveling. So yeah.
I can imagine that is tough when it all ends and it's all a memory. That is tough. They're the things I miss about football, as well as obviously the on the pitch stuff. But it's that team spirit thing. Yeah.
And that stuff that they tell you, enjoy it now because you can't get it back, and that must be an amazing feeling.
Exactly. In
both ways. So we have, to finish the show every week, we've got a thing that Chris has named broken news, which means that it's news that's well broken. So it's been well discussed. But we're talking about the fact that a lot of things are happening now. People can go to distanced hospitality things. They can go to, in some places they can go to the pitches. In some places they've had special gigs and stuff. But there's no sign of football supporters going back. And obviously the fact that, we alluded to it a couple of times tonight, the fact that fans aren't back in the stadium is having quite an effect on the game. Chris has got very strong feelings about it. But one of the things that it struck me is that, and this, is another big part of the news in football, that obviously so many goals in the Premier League. And my theory is that one of the reasons for that is that fans aren't there. And I wonder how you feel about that, Matt, because I've not obviously played at a very high level or any level whatsoever. But that, I think the fact that the crowd isn't there, and you were talking about playing to the Cheadle end, takes away 5-10% of concentration and kind of, putting pressure on you. That really helps during the game. Would you agree with that? Would you think that's why the defending's been so bad?
I definitely think it's played a part. We had so many goals, especially in the Premier League last week, that we had a season's worth. It's one of those things. I think it's a combination of what you've just said. I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's a combination of a lapse of concentration at times. It did get a bit ragged, especially in the Liverpool Villa game. teams were breaking on each other at both ends. It doesn't really happen in the Premier League. The Premier League's known for being watertight. I think the other thing that I've thought, particularly since we came back after lockdown, I've watched games. I think my first opinion on it was players particularly at the start in these friendlies, players started to go down injured after 65, 70 minutes with fluke injuries. And I was thinking at the time, it's obvious they've been out so many months, 5, 6 months, they're not fit. I think they may have carried a little bit of that over. And, I think it will tighten up. That's my opinion. Getting back to the fans and the crowd, I know firsthand what having that home advantage does. I also know firsthand what going to an away ground does, because you go to, let's say, Tranmere Rovers, prime example, like a bit of a northwest derby, Stockport v Tranmere back in the day. You'd be riding the storm for the first 20 minutes. The crowd would be roaring. You'd be defending for your lives, throwing your bodies at shots and blocks, and you'd just be happy to get out of that first 20 minutes 0-0 and then try and nick a point. That's not there anymore, or at least not at the moment. So I think the games are a lot more level now. I think home and away is almost gone. And we all know what sort of psychological edge that has for teams. If you go a goal down early on in an away game, the chances are you're going to crumble and go 2 or 3 down before half time. That's not there. So we are getting high scoring matches.
What do you think about getting the crowd back, Chris?
Well, we'll come to that in a moment. It's quite an interesting point that you were saying there about players getting injuries after 60, 70 minutes or something. Again, might be completely wrong. The highest I've played is a Power League. But Martin, for a start, you shouldn't put your career down. He's played at Wembley against, was it Roy Hodgson?
Yeah. Well, twice I played at Wembley.
I've not played at Wembley, Martin. So
yeah. Well, they were both charity matches. I worked on Euro '96, and there was a staff match at the end. So I played for the FA against UEFA, and Roy Hodgson was playing on the other side, and John Gorman said to me, "You're a good player, lad. You're a good player." After I'd given away 2 penalties.
I've definitely not done that.
But you talk. One thing the fans bring to the game, and you just touched on it there with the idea of County Tranmere. And I know not every game is going to drive that level of ferocity from the stand and whatever, but I imagine I've played gigs that are fairly big. I've played, to big crowds and stuff in concert, and you do get a certain amount of adrenaline. Yeah. Where if you're playing and you've got this buzz of playing in front of 50, 60,000, whatever you're used to doing in front of at the Premier League, that rush, if you've got a little knock, you tend not to feel it.
Yeah.
You tend not to, do you know what I mean? Maybe you don't get, you feel it the next day, maybe later that night, but if it's a little knock or a twist, you might not pick up on it because the adrenaline is just flowing. You just want to get the ball, you want to win it, especially if you're in the middle of a blood and thunder battle with your opposite number. Do you know what I mean? Whereas no fans, it's maybe that's why the injuries are more. I don't know. I'm sure there'd be more qualified people than me to say so, but it's got to be a theory.
It's an interesting point about the injuries, and I hadn't really picked up on it. But as you say, it's much shorter pre-season, and you've come, off the back of a quite, hard season anyway. So it does stand to reason that players aren't fully fit yet anyway. So that makes complete sense. But what do you think about getting fans back in the stadium, Chris?
I mean, right, from a passion perspective, imagine Adam Thomas scores that goal, first home game of the season. Imagine if the G-Land's full. I mean, it comes off, doesn't it? It literally lifts off, especially with everything that's going on with the club, with the investment and stuff. Now, obviously, that on its own is not a reason to say, well, let everybody back in then. If you would have had a great time, just open the doors. It's fine. You get the message in that, cinemas are open. You get the message in that you can still go to bars and, all right, it might be changing the next few weeks, but for the last few weeks, you've been able to go to restaurants, sit inside with 6 other people or whatever it is. Massive open-end stadium, like the Cheadle End, like Anfield, pick any stadium in between. Come on. If you can do these things in a cinema, why can you not do it? It just baffles me. I don't understand why that rule is in place.
Yeah, I mean, I get it is the open air, so it wouldn't work in every ground. At certain tight grounds that are that are well covered, you'd have to be very careful, and I think you probably still would have to socially distanced. So if it's a socially distanced crowd, do you have the same passion? Does it end up just being a kind of funny version of what you had before?
Yeah, there's also the financial aspect. I mean, it doesn't affect us, but there's clubs in our division that they're going to rely on that. And I think, I don't know, there will be a lot of people, as we've seen with the county YouTube streams and everything else, there'll be a lot of, literally thousands of people that will buy that stream. But I'd put good money down that there'll be also a good chunk of people who, I'm not going to watch it on YouTube. I'm not going to sit at the computer for 2 hours, and I'd rather go out and do something else with the family or whatever. And I don't know. I think it's something they've got to look at. They have to address it. Clubs are going to need that money coming in at some point. And at the same time, I think the game just needs it, especially if you're allowing it in other industries.
Well, yeah, it's going to get to quite a serious situation, isn't it? If clubs don't start, especially at this level, start making some money very soon. Yeah, it's a tough one. Going back to Liverpool, as a Liverpool fan, I think Villa, controversial opinion to finish with, I think Villa actually did us a favour by scoring 7. Because if it had been like 4-0, because everyone's thinking, oh, that's bizarre. That's just crazy. This is just a crazy thing and a crazy season. If they'd comprehensively beaten us 4-0, that would have been more, I think, of an actual, people would have said, blimey, Liverpool are terrible. And we were terrible, absolutely terrible. But and interesting what you're saying about cutting in. That's exactly what they did. They realised that there's a chance that you can do that with Gomez and Alexander-Arnold, and it worked absolutely perfectly for them. Absolutely perfectly. So, but I think my controversial opinion is they would have been better off beating us 4-0.
As a Liverpool fan, how do you feel that Everton are top?
Chris knows that the Everton word is always going to. I still can't believe that they have got Carlo Ancelotti and United haven't. I can't believe that United didn't go all out to get him when he was available. He is, because of him, they actually, and because of what we're saying about the crowd and who knows, I think this could be a crazy season, and Everton could quite feasibly do a Leicester. I think they haven't got squad depth that could trouble them, but in this kind of season, when everybody's struggling, they could. It'll absolutely be terrible, but I think they've got quite a good chance of. Rodriguez isn't going to stay that fit, but they do have a fantastic manager, and they are a team to be reckoned with now, and it galls me to say that. What do you think about that, Matt? Not necessarily about Everton, but about the fact that it could be a crazy season where any of 8 teams could win it.
Yeah, the crazier the better. I'm generally speaking, where I'm from, Salford, I'd say 95% of people here are Man United fans, and I've grown up a Man United fan, but I'm not a football lover in general, and I think I support County. I support, I keep an eye out for other clubs that I've played for. The more sort of high flyers in the Premier League, the better. I live for the Premier League as well, so the better Everton are, the more interesting it is at the end of the season, or come the back end of the season. You're looking strong this year. I think it's more of a case. He's a fantastic manager, Ancelotti, but I think it's also more of a case of more of your top players coming into their own, like Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Sort of maturing as a young man now, and he had the full package anyway. We all knew that. It's just a case of him stringing together some momentum and consistency. Now he's an England player. And if he carries on, I think you'll struggle to hold on to him. Yeah,
definitely.
And those Liverpool Everton derbies, crowd or no crowd, that's going to be very, very interesting. And we've got one coming up, haven't we? So
we have, next game.
It's going to be wicked. Yeah,
I'm worried.
That's going to completely determine Martin's mood in the next show. He's either going to come on buzzing or he's going to come on with a face like thunder.
Yeah.
on the Ancelotti Dominic Calvert-Lewin thing, I thought it was quite interesting. Did any of you see the interview after Calvert-Lewin got one of his hat tricks? On Match of the Day, Ancelotti probably said the same thing on Sky as well. He went into a little bit like Jim Gannon does, rather than just giving the stock interview of played well, Dom's done well, but the whole team's done job, blah blah blah. He's actually come out and said how he's been working with Dominic and how he wants him to start scoring with one touch. So if you look at the majority of his goals, they come with just one touch. He's not taken a touch, knocked it around a man, done whatever. It's all so the midfield obviously play a huge role in that. I thought it was quite odd that a manager. I mean, we know Jim. To be honest, I don't think Jim is like most managers, which is why you can get this level of conversation from him. But it surprised me a little bit to see a top-level manager come out and give such detail.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's you hit the nail on the head with the word detail. Again, going back to Jim and how Jim used to run things when I was there and how he runs things now, it's no surprise his success follows that. That was one of the main attributes as a manager. I personally, at the time, I remember when I signed for Stockport from Preston, and a couple of weeks in, I thought, this is the real deal here. You know, these are going places, and I'm going places with them. And I remember thinking, the gaffer in charge, I didn't know him too well then, but he'd signed me, and I remember thinking he could do this job anywhere in the country. You know, any coaching staff would be happy to take him the way he does things. And I think it's the same with Ancelotti. I think it's attention to detail. I think they always want more. You know, effectively there, Dominic Calvert-Lewin keeps his form up, keeps stringing goals together. It won't be long before you. I mean, this might sound a bit much at the moment, but it won't be long before your Real Madrids are looking at him and look, you know, because your top English striker at his age, with his style of play in a good side like Everton, they'll be looking to cherry pick. So I think it is that attention to detail to push him right on, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say you could tell he's a good player because United tried to sign him, but I think they were trying to sign anybody who had two legs. Did you get a call, Matt, last week from United?
yeah. Turned him down.
Yeah. Not having it. You could never hold your head up again.
No, my reputation. No, exactly. My reputation at the moment. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to finish. We've had a really good night. I think great to speak to you, Matt, and we'll have you on again soon.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, and we'll have another fascinating guest, another guest co-host next week, Chris. Yeah,
looking forward to it, Matt. It's been a pleasure, Martin. I've enjoyed name dropping Everton more than we usually would.
Yeah, you're only allowed a certain amount, mate. That's it from Stockport County Live this week. Thanks.